Alright, good evening, Gitter. I have just gotten back from work. This is my video reasoning for our research essay. Mine is Conformity, Society's Safety Net. So we start off with my introductory paragraph here, the point being, my thesis at the end. It is easier to conform than it is to stand out. I'd like to note that I have which is why before my thesis. I would have liked to talk to you about that because it was a little choppy and strong to just go with the thesis itself, so I included that there. I don't know if you agree or disagree with that. Hopefully you don't have too big of an issue with it. Then we launch into paragraph 1, supporting paragraph. Basically in this, I talk about the emotional pain of rejection and that humans are programmed, really, biologically, to avoid it at all costs because it's painful and it's, right here we open up with, it doesn't get any worse than social rejection, across 2011. And this was a bunch of researchers that looked at this and they said, like rejection is up there with, it's like one of the number one things. So rejection, the fear of that really makes conformity much easier every time we're put in a split-second kind of decision-making situation. That's basically the first paragraph. We have all those lovely supporting points in there. Mostly these are just journals backing up here. Even American Psychology Association backs me up a few times. That's really great. Concluding. Next we go into socially, blah. It is safer to avoid conflict than to attract it. So we go into kind of our hunter-gatherer instincts and some other lovely, interesting facts. Basically in this paragraph, talking about how we fear being alone. We avoid conflict so we don't end up in situations where we're alone, and that's instinct and nature, really, because originally that would mean death, which is here, akin to a death sentence. Also, we have some other facts to back this up. When you are in conflicting situations, it reveals who you are, and that's also uncomfortable because if you've been acting a certain way in front of people and all of a sudden you're put in a situation where you don't have time to front or pretend, it reveals you. So we also avoid conflict for that reason, because you can't hide the truth when you're in conflicting situations and act quickly or just off the cuff. That's also in here. And we wrap that up. Then, third paragraph. So it's easier for an individual to follow in someone else's footsteps than it is to be confident in themselves and make their own marks in the sand. So in this paragraph, I'm talking about how it's easier to conform than it is to be yourself. It takes a lot of work to be comfortable in who you are and confident in standpoints, or confident in what you stand for. And it's also hard to develop your own thoughts and then just be comfortable with sitting with them and sitting with yourself alone. There's some really great research facts about spending time with yourself, which would be a consequence of ending up alone because of avoiding conflict. So it's taking it a step further. So from paragraph 2, if you do confront conflict somehow and end up having to be with yourself, there's a lot of thinking and you're forced to think about actions and analyze yourself and your situation, and that's also uncomfortable because no one likes the reality or the truth. It's always very scary. We don't, as humans, like that in large doses. That's basically what we're saying there. And then here we once again wrapping it up, restating that it's easier to conform than it is to stand out. And there was lots of other ways to kind of say that in more beat around the bush way, but stand out was just easy and simple, and it wasn't as cloudy when it came to what are you saying? Well, it's easier to go with what everyone else is doing than it is to take a stand and say, no, this is what I'm doing. So, humankind has a fear of challenging the world around it by nature. Basically, we also wrap up by restating original points here. In short, conformity allows people to feel accepted, safe, and it doesn't force them to think too deeply. So those are our 3 paragraphs kind of summarized in one word. Then ended off with a quote from JFK. So conformity is the jailer of freedom and the enemy of growth. However, it will always be the the option people fall back on because it is easiest, which is what I have been saying this whole time. The end and other magical things. I think that's pretty much it. Conformity is always easier. It's what we're going to do by instinct because we fear rejection. We fear confronting people, and we fear getting to actually know ourselves if we were to end up in a situation where we're alone with our thoughts, because it means taking some time to know yourself instead of just knowing the world around you and what it deems is acceptable. And that's a lot easier than sitting down and taking a look at who you are. And I think that's it. Thanks again. That's all.